I'm your host, Paula Hersey. It's Thursday, December 20th. On today's show, we take a deep dive into internet safety for tweens and teens and talk to Town Council agenda with Eric Steinhibler. Let's start with some news you can use. AmeriCorps Cape Cod and the Cape Cod Cooperative Extension are organizing a Holiday Lights recycling drive in partnership with the town transfer stations. The Barnstable transfer station will be collecting used, unwanted, or broken holiday string lights until Saturday, January 12, 2019. AmeriCorps members will be collecting the string lights and bringing them to Ferrers Metal Recycling in Hyannis, where the copper and other metals in the strings will be recycled. With the high winds and waves we experienced Tuesday, December 18th, Sandy Neck staff felt there was a high probability of turtle stranding on Sandy Neck. Sandy Neck Beach Park Operations Manager Donna Bragg, along with turtle rescue volunteer Hope Aldrich, were on patrol when Hope spotted a loggerhead in the surf. Donna jumped into the water to rescue. The loggerhead was alive and seemed in good shape. They brought the turtle back to the gatehouse garage and called Wellfleet Bay Wildlife Sanctuary, Mass Audubon, who came and collected the loggerhead for rehab. They estimate the weight of the turtle at around 60 pounds. Town Council leadership vote, Highway Business District appropriations, and more on the Town Council's agenda this evening.
3, 2.
On the phone with me is Eric Steinhilber, Town Council President, for one more meeting, we think?
Yeah, that is correct. Thanks for having me.
So, not a jam-packed agenda, but you've got a few items there. You've got some grants to accept this evening?
Yeah, we have 3 law enforcement grants, which we'll accept tonight. Kind of the bigger items on the agenda is the highway business zoning, which we've spoken about the last couple meetings. We had joint meetings with the planning board. They gave us their thoughts on it, their recommendations. 2 parts. One is uses as of right in the existing zoning, and then another part was changing the map boundaries, which we're not going to take up until the end of January. But tonight we'll take up the change of uses. One important note about the highway business zone: these proposed uses. It's not adding anything that you're not going to already see along West Main Street, Route 28, 132. All this is doing is really easing the process to open up a business or to redo your business, because right now it can be a 6, 7, 8, 9, 10-month process to go through an appeals process, because right now, as the zoning's written, it only allows offices and banks with no drive-through. And obviously, if you drive down West Main Street, Route 28, 132, you see a lot of things that are not offices and not banks without drive-throughs. So the process is kind of long. It's expensive for folks that want to do business in these zones. So we're basically taking the uses that are there that are pre-existing non-conforming and adding several of them to be an as-of-right to kind of eliminate the blockade and the extra expense, which is really unnecessary for people that are trying to do good business in town and our commercial corridors. So hopefully we can wrap that up tonight. We also have a couple of appropriations. One is to fix the roof trusses over at Hyannis West Elementary. As school was opening this past September, there was a structural issue found above the cafeteria with the roof. Decision was made not to obviously use the cafeteria this year. There's a temporary structure there for all the students, and we're got the bids, we've got the design done, so this is the appropriation to fix that roof, which will be completed obviously not this school year, but it'll be completed before school starts up again next year. And then the other appropriation we're looking at is work over at Mary Dunn well. I believe it's well number 4. Some reactivation work over there. So there'll be a public hearing around the water well and a public hearing with the roof truss appropriation as well. And then, as you mentioned, a few law enforcement grants. And then we have some other items that we'll be referring to January. We also have an item that we're referring to the planning board. One of those actually includes signage for the new Target that's coming into the Cape Cod Mall. So we'll be setting up some of the meetings here in January. as you mentioned, be my last meeting tonight as president. I've been president for a couple of years now. Chose not to do another term as president, but we did have Vice President Jim Crocker has been nominated for president, and we have two councilors nominated for vice president, Councilor John Flores and Councilor Deb Dagwan. So tonight we'll have the elections. The only contested one is for vice president, and then those folks will take over as the new council leadership as we head into next year.
And that council leadership, Eric, can you just give folks somewhat of an understanding of what's included when you're that president or vice president, besides talking to us every week?
Yeah, it is. I really enjoy doing it. It takes up a lot of time, which I'm more than happy to do because you're involved in setting the agenda, moving initiatives forward on behalf of other councilors, moving the strategic plan forward that the whole council puts together. It's all the priorities, meeting with the town manager on a weekly basis to keep our priority items moving, and just kind of taking up, business as it comes. But it's been, a great honor to be president. I grew up in this town, so it's been, really, I've appreciated every moment of being president, and I look forward to obviously continuing on the council. But I've spent 3 years in leadership. I was vice president when President Rap Grissetti was president, and then 2 years, these past 2 years as president. But I have no doubt in the leadership of Vice President Jim Crocker becoming president and continuing to move on number of big items that we've worked on as a council: infrastructure, water quality, economic development, really kind of streamlining doing business in Barnstable to make it a very welcoming place, so we have good job creation. We've been pushing increased housing opportunities. We have a lot that we still have to do, but really proud of the work we've done over these past few years here, and working with the town manager, who's been a great asset for the town. And I look forward to continuing to work in my capacity as a councilor to keep these priorities moving forward on behalf of everyone here in Barnstable.
Well, we wanted to thank you, Eric, for being so accommodating, for talking with us every other week for before the town council, and we wish you luck on the other side of the dais.
All right, well, thank you very much, and wish everyone a Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Take care.
Protecting your kids online can seem overwhelming to most parents of tweens and teens. Certified digital forensic detective Kevin Connolly from the Barnstable Police Department has some gaming and social media tips to help parents navigate these sometimes confusing and treacherous digital waters. Teens and tweens are always looking for the next best video game out there or the next best app. With me today, Detective Kevin Connolly from the Barnstable Police Department. We're going to talk a little bit about internet safety and your kids. Detective, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
So let's give folks a little background. You're an expert in some of this internet crime, cybercrime kind of stuff, right?
Well, I think it's a stretch to use expert when you talk about online because it's just so ever-changing. But
Right.
I can say I've been working with digital evidence for over a decade now. I've had a tremendous amount of training through the state, through the federal law enforcement training center, different companies, all that the Barnstable Police Department has let me chase after and try to get on top of this before it becomes a problem. And it has turned into something that we've used for investigations in our town, and more importantly, instructing parents, teachers, and children how to be safe while dealing with anything online, which, as we all know, over the last 10 years has grown from, just watching a movie to playing a video game to people you shop online. Just the closing of Toys R Us in town, as devastating as it was for me to see Jeffrey the Giraffe retire, it just goes to show that everything is online.
Right. Right, and let's just give a little history to digital forensics, 10 years. So the ability of looking at what happens online, I want to impress upon parents that children and themselves, they leave a digital footprint.
They do. We talk about that a lot with the second life, almost is what it's called. I talk to a lot of parents about making sure they're a part of not just their children's life, but their digital life as well. And when we talk about parents that really don't participate in their child's digital life, they're missing a lot. And they can miss a lot of indicators of good things and bad things. And it can come back to haunt kids for job interviews, for internships, for schools. There's every single one of those things looks at your digital footprint and sees what type of person you are. And like I tell parents all the time, if your child came home from school and said, hey, I'm going to be playing a sport, that wouldn't end the conversation. It would be what sport? You'd go shopping, you'd get some cleats or a glove or a hockey stick. You'd go to practices, you'd go to games, you'd be a part of that. You should be doing the same exact thing with their social media, with their digital footprint. What websites are you on? What games are you playing? Sit down and play those games with them. The biggest thing that never changes in online safety is communication. You have to communicate with your kids, and that's a face-to-face communication, and it is the most important piece of keeping everybody safe and educating everybody. And that is the one piece that never changes, is communication.
Right. And that communication, when you're first starting out in this, you talk about jobs and internships, the digital life of children now starts usually around the age of 8 or 9 years old. So that
if not younger.
If not younger, right? You're getting the iPads out, you've got some apps. There was the weird Elmo doll that recorded everything it said.
You'd be hard-pressed to find a 4-year-old that doesn't know how to work an iPad and that doesn't know his parents' password to get into it.
Right.
That's if I forget my password, I go right to my kids. How do I get into this one? And they know.
Right.
Just like we used to fix the blinking light on the VCR, our kids have outgrown us technology-wise.
Right. So we're going to talk a little bit today about protecting your kids online.
Yes.
So let's start with the first, connection.
The first thing. So, like I said, it's always communication. Connection is the biggest thing. Is understanding. How are our kids getting online? You go back a decade, and it was the computer. It's put the computer in the family area, and that was how you monitored the internet. It was hardwired. There was no Wi-Fi everywhere. Understanding what type of devices are your children on and what applications or games are they doing on those devices. So you need to understand. Fortnite's a big one right now. We all know that right now.
Right.
A year ago, it was Minecraft. And that is on phones, video game consoles, computers. You can do some of that stuff right through Comcast TVs now, smart TVs. So understanding how the kids are connected is step one. And communicating with them and figuring out, because I know when my kids will come over and they'll sit down and one's playing it on the computer, one's playing on their phone, and the other one's playing it on the Xbox, but they're all playing together. It's all integrated. And I love learning about that with them. And believe me, they hate having me as a dad because I'm all over the internet stuff. And they're like, it's not fair. You understand it. That's great. But I understand it too because I sit down and I play with them. I say, let's play. You can beat me up on Fortnite. I'm not good at it. I'm terrible. Terrible. But it gives you time with your children and you're learning what they're doing. You're listening to what they're listening to. You're seeing who their friends are online. Big rule in my house, the friends online are friends they know in real life. They're not friends with, they have their cousins, they have their family members, and they have friends from their grades. Okay. I have a daughter who's a sophomore. She does not have seniors that are friends with her online. My 8-year-old does not have kids that are friends with my 15-year-old online. They are kids in the same grade, one grade up or down, and people they know in real life. There is no friending unknowns because unknowns are truly unknowns.
Right.
So.
Right. And that's the scary part, is that a lot of these games actually can connect you all over the world.
All over the world. Like I said, when I go on Fortnite, if I was to go out and play with people from all around the world, I would be getting beat up by little kids in England. That's just how it is. I'm not good.
So learning, you connect and then you learn.
Learning that just it goes right into that communication. And it seems like dads really like me saying this, but when the new Black Ops comes out or when the new Fortnite update comes out, sit down and play. And that's how you learn. communicating with the kids. When their social media apps are huge, but if you don't understand what your kids are on, the kids aren't on Facebook. They're not. They're on Instagram. They're on Snapchat. Snapchat's the big one right now. There's a lot of things you have to be aware of with that stuff. There's a lot of things that, you know, I'm a big proponent of. I don't want my kids friending me because I'm going to get the fake account. I'm not going to see their messages. I'm not going to see what they're getting. I pay for their cell phones. I get the passwords to their cell phones. I pay for the internet in my house. I get access to everything they have. And what it does is it sets in the back of their head that, well, I know Dad looks at my stuff all the time. I know Dad's going to log into my account because he has my passwords. He's the only one that has my passwords, me and their mom. It's that little voice in the back of the head that we had when we were kids. You know, am I about to do something stupid? If Mom or Dad finds out about this, is this not a smart decision? You have to do the same thing with their devices. You have to set that little voice in the back of the head that helps them make good decisions and not do anything that's going to put them in danger of screwing up something at school, screwing up something in their future, or them hurting someone else, because that is very easily done. Cyberbullying is a whole nother aspect of this world that kids don't have that castle to retreat to after school where they can sit there, eat a bowl of ice cream, watch TV. School comes home with them through these devices, and we have to be aware of that, and we have to monitor it to make sure that our children aren't becoming victims, and also that our kids aren't the bystanders that are letting things happen, or worst case scenario, that they're the ones, you know, becoming the bullies.
Right. I mean, it's such a scary world out there. What kind of advice can you give to parents who really aren't that savvy in that digital world? So you can say, well, you can sit down and play the game, but if you're not using computers in your everyday life, you know, something like that's a little bit more problematic for some parents. Is that where that password, having the ability to monitor what they're putting on their phones, is that where that comes in?
That comes into play there, but once again, that's if you're not going in and seeing, you can have the password and log in, but if you don't know which app you're looking at, and my God, I open up my 13-year-old daughter's phone and she has about 6 million, I don't know how she has any room left on her phone, there's about 6 million pages of apps, and she probably uses 5 of them. And just like all of us, we all have tons of apps on our phone, tons of computer programs. You use about 5. That's about the standard. You know, but my kids know. I go in, I look at their camera roll. That's one of those things that parents overlook it. Go into the camera roll. Look at deleted pictures. Look at regular pictures. And believe me, any parent is going to open up be like, there's 15,000 photos in here. Yeah, there's 50. They go to the moon. They took, I think, 35 photos. You know, kids go into the restroom now and they take 16 selfies in a mirror. You know, that's just how the world is right now.
Yeah, that's really great advice. The camera roll
the
really
camera
can
roll
be
is very
telling.
important. Messages, and see what messaging apps are out there. That stuff is important. One of the things I think for the parents that just aren't tech savvy or don't really understand it, if you can get online, there's a wonderful website called netsmarts.org, and it's netsmartz.org. That website is run by the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. It is constantly being updated. And there's parts in there for parents. There's a law enforcement bot for us to get presentations and different things. But there's a parental section, and it actually breaks it down into children under 8, tweens, teens, and once you get into there, how to talk to them about cell phones, how to talk to them about sexting, how to talk to them about gaming online, online safety, identity fraud. And there's some really good flyers that you can print up in there. It's excellent because it's constantly being updated. And what's really important with it is it talks about not a specific app. It doesn't go and say, oh, well, when you go into Snapchat, you want to turn on ghost mode. And that's to hide where you are. That could change next week. It goes in there and it talks about how to talk to your kids about social media, how to address the problem. When we learned how to drive cars, we didn't learn how to drive a Chevy or a Ford. We learned how to drive a car. Because we have a Chevy today, but we may have a Ford tomorrow. So you got to learn how the social media aspect is working, how the gaming aspect works, how they're all tied together.
Right.
And that will help you start to understand it. But it's a fantastic website.
Okay, that is NetSmarts with a Z.
Yep.
.org.
Yep.
And then the last is, when you're doing the engagement part with your kids, you're sitting down and you're playing the games. What are some of those tips that you can give them? Like the games specifically for me, I mean, I'm pretty tech savvy, have been for many years, but the whole gaming online thing baffles me.
It's unbelievable. The hand-eye coordination is amazing to me. I grew up with Nintendo, up, down, left, right, A, B. That was it. I was an original
Sonic
gamer.
the Hedgehog, man.
I was a Super Mario Brothers. And when they came out with the retro, I loved it. And my kids, they can't play it because they're shaking the remote trying to, because it does all those things. The new
Right.
remotes, they're all so interactive. They have no idea how to play the old games.
But these are all online. These games
They're
are all
all
online. They're not
online.
contained in the box or in a cartridge anymore.
No, it's all in the cloud.
So what do you look for in those types of games? Are you looking for people that they're connected with?
You're looking for, when you're logging in to play with the kids, what you're doing is, I'm always looking, well, who are we playing with? Who are we, Fortnite, you can get dumped into an island full of people from around the world, that's how the game's played. But you can start to squad up. And now you're connected with friends that you're friends with. That's where I start asking the question, who's this? Who's that? Who's this? Who's that? And if we don't know them, they're gone. And I'm very proud of my children. They'll have a request list a mile long, and they'll straight up tell me, we don't know who they are, we're not accepting that. They have very small friends lists. Did I just say my kids don't have a lot of friends?
No.
We'll
They
have to edit that out.
don't have friends that they don't know.
Exactly, as we shouldn't.
Right.
Nobody has 300 friends.
Right.
Nobody. I don't care how popular you are. But the biggest thing with the engagement that I think is very important for parents to understand is when you can start to use this not only as learning it, making sure they're safe, but it also gives you a wonderful tool as a parent to, if you need to start cutting back on things. I'm a big believer that taking something completely away is not the solution, because we go back to that first thing we talked about. Someone's digital life is just as important as their in real life. So to completely take it away, it's going to be like the kid that can't have cookies at home. He's going to go to the neighbor's house and have cookies, and he's going to gorge himself on the cookies. It's monitoring, it's engaging, it's not taking something completely away. Certainly setting up parameters of, you can play for a half hour when you get home, but then schoolwork time. And a lot of schoolwork now, it's all online, which has some wonderful tools on it. My kids have Chromebooks from their school. As they're working on a paper, they can message me, call me, and say, hey, can you help me with this paper? You can go on and see live changes. You can help them with their reports. Wonderful things through the internet.
Right.
Gaming is the same way. Some of the things that parents should look out for, red flags, is kids that are starting to hide what they're doing on their devices. If they're spending extra time on the devices that they used to, if they start to withdraw from real life, because having that balancing act, and it is a balancing act of digital life, real life, because you need both. You need both to be healthy in today's society. That's where, if that digital life starts to overcome everything and they start to not communicate, if they pull away from other things, other friends, family members that they used to communicate with and have good relationships with, those are some red flags you have to start looking out for. Okay. If they minimize things on their screens, or if they start locking the phone, if I hate to say it, but if they change the password and don't tell you, you got to have a conversation with them. And you have to remember, we're their parents.
Right.
We're the adults. Our goal is not to be their friends. Our goal is to make sure that when they become adults, they got there safely because of what we did. And we have to remember that. That's the most important thing we have to do for them, is we are their guardians.
Right. And the guardians of digital life and real life.
Exactly, exactly.
That's a great segue to
So-
the ending, Kevin.
so,
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Here's a look at the community calendar. There is still plenty of music and cultural events in and around Barnstable this holiday season. Check out artsbarnstable.com and make it an artful holiday. Reminder, Town Council meets tonight, 7 p.m., second floor hearing room, Town Hall. Comments, suggestions, accolades? Connect with us on Facebook and Instagram. email us, or send us an old-fashioned note by carrier pigeon. Channel 18 works. For you. I'm Paula Hersey, and thank you for watching Barnstable Today.